Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Finally, Lavrov said it. I think he said it before in a more veiled way, but now he just comes out and says it. United States of America wages war against Russia. So, I think that was not a surprise. Not that he said it, not a surprise that that is a fact. I think it's obvious to everyone who has an IQ above 86 or doesn't have an agenda to ignore the evidence. So we have here an article from Sputnik, and we have Lavrov coming out and saying the obvious. Like always, my point is, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to adapt, adjust, or are you just going to keep doing what you're doing and you just let us know that that's what's going on? Thank you very much, Mr. Lavrov. Some of us got that. Now, other ones have to get that. Let's see what this article has to say. Comes from Sputnik, as I mentioned. It is from today, the 17th of September 2023. Lavrov says that US wages war against Russia by managing Ukraine conflict. Okay, give us some details, Mr. Sergei Lavrov. No matter what the United States says, it is managing the conflict in Ukraine, supplying weapons, ammunition, and intelligence, and thus waging a war against Russia. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Sunday, yeah, wages a war with weasels that try to get some crumbs flickered out of the US's table once they, if they can, to destroy Russia. What is happening is that Ukraine has been prepared for years to fight with its hands and its bodies to strategically defeat Russia. No matter what they say, they are managing this war. They are supplying weapons, ammunition, intelligence, satellite data. They are waging a war against us, end quote, Lavrov said. And I would say that Mr. Lavrov did not want to mention probably some operations that are a little bit like covert operations, and he didn't want to mention, for instance, instructors, advisors, military advisors, trainers, people who are just inspecting to see how the weapons, the military aid, not the weapons to kill other people. No, it's the military aid. You aid, like, band aid. Aww. Okay, so he's not mentioning those guys who are there, and they are definitely not involved. Remember, there was an article maybe about 7 months ago or so, stating that the Americans, the Brits, and many other countries have special operation units over there, and the United States will use them if necessary. They will re-employ them. I covered that in one of my videos then. So let's see what else, what's going on here in this article. And we know Lavrov, it's obvious what you say, but what are you going to do about it? I guess they don't want to escalate it, so they let Al Capone react. Or act. Russian President Vladimir Putin said at a meeting with the Belarusian counterpart Alexander Lukashenko that the United States tries to solve all problems it encounters with force, threats, or economic sanctions. Who? That sounds familiar. As I said many times, unfortunately, the United States in the past 32 years has been employing diplomacy with threats, diplomacy, regime change, and military invasion. So yeah, he's partly right here. He doesn't want to go all the way. Probably he could go more than I did. He highlighted that Russia is not a threat to anyone. All right. Threat is depending also on, it's a subjective thing. It depends on how someone perceived someone's behavior. For instance, Russia thought that NATO is a threat to them. NATO said, we're not. So which one is it? Why don't you just sit down and discuss it? The same here. Russia said it's not a threat to anyone. Well, why don't you ask other countries? Maybe they will say, well, maybe you are. Okay, let's sit down and talk about it. But no, they don't have communication. They don't have. Why? Because it's a, how do you call that? There's not a desire to do it. That's the whole point. They have an agenda and they tailor their answers and their politics based on that. So let's say someone wants to punch you in the face, you can be as reasonable as and defensive as you want. He's gonna do it. He's gonna find something. You got the wrong match. I don't know, your purse doesn't match your shoes, for instance, as a woman, or the belt doesn't match your shoes, or the socks don't match your shoes, the collar, something, you know, and that doesn't match. Boom. What does that have to do with that one? Well, I consider that an insult or threat or whatever I want. And he says here, he highlighted that Russia is not a threat to anyone, and the Americans themselves acknowledge that the real threat emerges from the White House. Earlier in September, U.S. media reported that Biden administration was looking at supplying Ukraine with ATACMS, ATACMS, with a range of up to 190 miles, capable of striking deep into Russian territory this fall to boost Ukraine's counteroffensive. Yes, that will happen, and they will do it. I have no, I'm going to give you 99% they will do it, and they put pressure on whomever. Why? Because the organizers, the control centers are putting pressure on the weasels that were elected by us to, see and defend our interests. But somehow we are supposed to have a worse life because those interests decided that they have to have it better. So they have it better, we have it worse, we go and vote. The guys over there do what we know, what they told them, and so on. Anyway, my friends, yes, you are at war. What are you going to do about it? Well, I think that's a veiled threat or warning, I would say warning, towards the United States, saying, if things... if the shit hits the fan, we're gonna react differently. And the other guys know it, but they push it. And the Russians seem to be, I would say, not desperate yet. Because if they get desperate, they will say that and say, we're gonna fuck you up. Therefore, they keep doing what they're doing so far. Remember, they are communicating behind the scenes. If you think they're not communicating and gouging one another and telling, hey, this is a red line, no, we're gonna do this. I mean, just imagine that Russia would say tomorrow or today, we feel that our national security and how do you call that? The existence of our state is threatened. Therefore, we're going to activate our nuclear protocols, which is we're going to use nuclear weapons. What do you think the other guy is going to do? I tell you what they're going to do. They're going to first talk tough, so they don't show weakness, saying that, hey, we got scared, hold on, time out. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to start tough. They're evil. They're not going to do anything more than the other guys did in 45. If you look at it, I don't support it, but hey, it's kind of hypocritical when you do it, but say, hey, wait a second, nobody, you just got wiser. First, you don't have the authority anymore, any moral authority. But hey, let's put it aside. So let's say these guys are going to talk, and the Russians give them a deadline. Say, okay, in 12 hours, if these guys don't stop and you don't agree to talk, we're going to do this, blah, 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 blah. They're going to keep talking for about 11 hours, 45 minutes, and then they're going to contact the Russians. I guarantee you. And all this is going to be, if they get, and if NATO doesn't break, or the United States' support doesn't break, if Putin and about 300 other people, Putin and the 300s, do not collapse, and they're not by these guys here, like a Gaddafi style, or like a Saddam style, or like a Mussolini in 1945 style. If that doesn't happen in Russia, then I guarantee you these guys are going to contact in 11 hours, 45 minutes. Hey, we want to talk to you. You're crazy, man. Well, that's the end of the rope, or end of the line, however we want to call it. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Lavrov just lets us know, doesn't let us know actually, he just says something that many of us said it many times before and for some time already. It's not Ukraine, Russia, it's United States, Al Capone wanting, more influence around the city. Chicago. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.